The quiet morning of September 9, 2025 was shattered in Doha, the capital of Qatar. An Israeli airstrike hit the city, a place long seen as a hub for diplomacy rather than a battlefield. This was not just another attack, it was the first known Israeli military operation on Qatari soil. The explosions targeted residential buildings in a peaceful neighborhood, a district that is also home to many foreign embassies. For the people of Doha, the sound of sirens and the sight of smoke were a shocking new reality, turning their city into an unexpected front line. The attack was precise and unexpected, catching international observers completely by surprise. Reports from the scene describe significant damage to several buildings where senior Hamas leaders were known to live and work. The strike happened without any public warning, which is a major departure from how regional conflicts have usually been managed. It represented a significant escalation, as Israel chose to act militarily inside the borders of a sovereign Gulf nation. This decision has sent ripples of alarm across the entire Middle East, raising fears of a much wider and more unpredictable war. This event marks a dramatic shift in the rules of engagement. It signals a new, more dangerous phase where diplomatic safe havens are no longer guaranteed. The attack in Doha is not just another headline, it is a moment that could redefine the future of the Middle East and its relationship with the rest of the world. The Israeli strike was not random, it was aimed at the highest levels of Hamas's political leadership. Among the key figures targeted was Khalil al-Hayya, who serves as the group's chief negotiator. He and other members of the Hamas political bureau were reportedly meeting at the time of the attack. They were gathered to discuss a new ceasefire proposal put forward by the United States. The timing of the strike is therefore highly significant. By targeting these leaders during active peace talks, Israel sent a powerful message. It was no longer willing to negotiate with the current Hamas leadership. Israel viewed them as direct threats to its security. Israel has said the actions were necessary to protect its citizens. It views Hamas leaders, even those engaged in diplomacy, as responsible for planning and directing attacks. From Israel's perspective, the political and military wings are inseparable. Striking them in Doha, once considered a sanctuary, marks a change in policy. The new approach rests on the idea that Hamas leaders cannot operate freely anywhere. The strike aimed to dismantle the group's command structure wherever members were located. The attack's importance goes beyond the targeted individuals. It challenges decades of diplomacy in the region. Qatar had long served as neutral ground for difficult conversations. By striking there, Israel has effectively closed that channel, at least for now. The attack signals a tilt toward military solutions over diplomacy, which could have long-lasting consequences for peace efforts. The move also carries major risks for Israel. Striking inside a sovereign state like Qatar is a serious violation of international law and is likely to draw widespread condemnation. Israeli leaders seemingly judged that removing these Hamas figures outweighed the diplomatic fallout. Whether that judgment proves correct depends on how the region responds. Qatar's reaction to the Israeli airstrike was swift, direct, and filled with anger. The Qatari Foreign Ministry immediately issued a powerful statement condemning the attack in the strongest possible terms. It described the strike as a cowardly act and a flagrant violation of international law and sovereignty. The language used was unusually harsh, reflecting shock and betrayal. Qatar has long prided itself on mediating conflicts. Being targeted was an unacceptable breach of trust and a direct assault on national integrity. Doha warned of danger to its own citizens and to foreign residents. The strike hit a residential area, not a military zone, putting innocent lives at risk. Doha vowed it would not tolerate this reckless behavior. That vow signals a potential shift in Qatar's foreign policy. Qatar hosts a U.S. military base and hosts the Hamas political office. The attack may force Qatar to choose a side with major regional diplomatic consequences. Beyond statements, the strike challenges Qatar's role as a key diplomatic player. Qatar built influence as a neutral mediator, trusted in tough negotiations. That influence now looks undermined. Qatar's sovereignty appears not respected. Other delegations may be hesitant to meet there, fearing for safety. The attack was an assault on Qatar's foreign policy strategy itself. Qatar has called on the international community to act, and will likely press the UN for accountability. The government faces a dilemma: show it can protect its territory while managing complex diplomatic fallout. The coming days will determine whether Qatar can salvage its reputation as a safe and neutral ground for diplomacy. The Israeli strike on Doha sent immediate shockwaves across the Middle East. Regional powers quickly and forcefully condemned the action. Saudi Arabia was one of the first to respond. It called the airstrike a brutal assault and a blatant violation of Qatar's sovereignty. Saudi Arabia expressed full solidarity with the Qatari people. That statement signaled a unified front among Gulf Arab nations. Iran, a long-standing adversary of Israel, also reacted with strong condemnation. Iranian officials denounced the strike as extremely dangerous and criminal. They warned it could lead to an uncontrollable escalation across the region. The intensity of Iran's response highlights fears of a wider war. The United Arab Emirates, which has normalized relations with Israel, also condemned the treacherous attack. Beyond the Middle East, the international community expressed serious alarm. The UN Secretary-General described the attack as a flagrant violation of Qatar's sovereignty and territorial integrity. He noted Qatar's positive role in trying to negotiate a ceasefire, a role the strike undermined. This high-level condemnation adds significant diplomatic pressure on Israel. It frames the attack not as counter-terrorism, but as an illegal act of aggression, threatening global peace. The collective response shows how isolated Israel may become after this decision. The attack united a diverse group of nations, including rivals like Saudi Arabia and Iran, in their condemnation. That unified regional and international opposition could have major consequences for Israel's foreign relations and security. The strike was meant to weaken Hamas, but it may have weakened Israel's own standing in the world. The strong and united backlash shows the Doha attack has created a new and dangerous diplomatic crisis for everyone involved. The Israeli strike in Doha has placed the United States in an incredibly difficult and precarious position. Qatar is a key American ally and hosts the Al Udeid Air Base, the largest and most important U.S. military installation in the entire Middle East. This base is central to American operations, serving as a hub for air power, serving as a hub for logistics. The attack happened worryingly close to this vital American asset, immediately raising serious security concerns for the thousands of U.S. military personnel stationed there. Immediately following the strike, the U.S. Embassy in Doha issued a shelter-in-place order for all American citizens and personnel in the country. This urgent directive highlights the perceived level of threat and the unstable security situation on the ground. This situation is made even more tense by the memory of a previous attack on the Al Udeid base by Iran in June 2025. The U.S. is now facing the risk of being caught in the crossfire between two of its key regional partners. Israel, Qatar, Washington now faces a major diplomatic challenge. It must navigate the fallout of an attack carried out by one of its closest allies, Israel, on the soil of another crucial partner, Qatar. The U.S. relies on Qatar not only for its military presence but also for its role in mediating sensitive negotiations, including those involving Hamas. The strike has severely strained the U.S.-Qatar relationship and could complicate future cooperation on security and diplomatic matters. The American government will have to perform a delicate balancing act, trying to reassure Qatar of its support, while also managing its alliance with Israel. This incident forces the United States to confront difficult questions about its influence in the region. The strike occurred while American diplomats were actively pushing for a ceasefire, suggesting that U.S. efforts were either ignored or deliberately undermined. This raises concerns about whether the U.S. can still effectively lead diplomatic initiatives to de-escalate the conflict. The attack in Doha is a direct challenge to American interests and its ability to maintain stability in a region vital to global security. The Israeli airstrike in Doha has dealt a devastating blow to the fragile process of peace negotiations in the Middle East. The attack specifically targeted Hamas leaders at the very moment they were considering a ceasefire proposal backed by the United States. This timing suggests the strike was meant to do more than eliminate individuals. It aimed to shatter the diplomatic process itself. By attacking negotiators, the path to a peaceful resolution has been made much harder. It sends a chilling message that dialogue is no longer viable, pushing the conflict toward a military confrontation. Qatar's role as mediator has been thrown into jeopardy. For years, the Hamas political office in Doha was the primary address for diplomacy. Western governments, Arab governments relied on Qatar to pass messages and facilitate talks. Now the safety and neutrality of Doha as a negotiation venue are compromised. It's unclear if Hamas leaders can engage in diplomacy from Qatar or anywhere else. This could cause a complete breakdown in communication, leaving no off-ramp to de-escalate the violence and end civilian suffering. The attack will likely harden positions and make compromise nearly impossible. Hamas may conclude there's no point in further negotiations and shift to a more militant stance. Israel appears to be pursuing military victory at any cost, even if it alienates allies and breaches international norms. This feeds a dangerous cycle of escalation, pushing any hope for lasting peace further away. The strike in Doha marks a turning point for the Middle East. It has undermined diplomatic channels and raised instability across the region. Ceasefire talks are now highly uncertain, and the risk of a wider regional war has increased dramatically. The international community led by the United States faces an urgent task: rebuild shattered trust and find a new path to peace. Without functioning diplomacy, the region may be heading into a much darker, more violent chapter.